Hey, what's up? My name is Flip to Dip. I'm a senior game designer, former content developer for old school RuneScape, and I am here to talk about why I think Shamanism should be old school RuneScape's next skill. Before we go into what I consider being the brilliant parts of the skill, I want to explain why I think it's miles better than both taming and sailing as a new skill. One thing that taming and sailing have in common is that they sell a dream. They sell the idea of carrying and forming a bond with an animal, or in the case of sailing, exploring the waters and becoming a captain or a pirate. These are brilliant themes alone, worth exploring more in my opinion, but they also both feel a little bit shoehorned as a skill. Now the cool thing about sailing is not actually the skill of sailing a boat, it's about the exploration part that comes with it. I think most of us would have loved to travel the old school RuneScape sea and explore islands, manage our, boats and methods of travel. That said, most of this would make more sense as a content expansion rather than a skill. I'd go as far as to say that old school RuneScape's next big expansion should probably be a sea expansion. It makes a lot of sense, there's endless potential of what you could do both above and below water. But turning it into a skill just because the meme has lingered in the back of our mind since God knows when, is just gonna hurt the content at the end of the day. And you don't want to lose out on all the really cool parts that could come with the sea expansion just because you need to fit in sailing as a mechanic into that. I want to do new slayer tasks, killing sea creatures, finding new resources or skilling methods on islands. I want to upgrade my boat, but why should it be turned into a skill? Anything could be turned into a skill, but not everything should be turned into a skill. So what should be turned into a skill? I think that's the real question. While sailing integrates well with the rest of the world, it doesn't really offer a new take on it, other than the scenery. Reading the blog, it talks about deep sea fishing, hunting sea creatures, delivering packages. These are expansions to other skills. These methods do not form any new relationships to our current skilling system. Now, taming does sound incredibly wholesome, and I love the idea of bonding with a dragon, but realistically I struggle seeing how old school as a game mechanically supports the dream it sells. Our game is incredibly systematic and mechanical, more than other games. It offers a very different type of immersion compared to a game like Final Fantasy, for example. My first thought after reading about taming was, will I enjoy doing these activities for 100, 200 hours? Will it feel like I'm forming a bond with my pet, or will it feel like my bond is transactional and very similar to how every other player is forming a bond? It's hard to translate practicing an old school skill to forming emotions or relationships between living creatures. My fear is that most of it will feel too artificial and too mechanical to actually live up to the dream it's trying to sell. This is why I think it's incredibly important not to design skills based on a theme, but instead to design a theme around a concept and a gameplay loop. You will be spending many hours repeating that loop, so it better A, be multidimensional, and B, serve a wider purpose for the game. In my previous video, I discussed the incredible value and opportunity experience holds as a game mechanic. It's a practically free player motivation, allowing for some actual player sacrifice. This means we can solve real problems or fill gaps in the game using experience as a motivational factor. Neither sailing or taming does this, which is why I was really happy to read about the last skill, Shamanism. I've tried to avoid reading too much into Jagek's current definitions of the skills, and instead used it as inspiration for what the skill could be. I would highly suggest all of you to do the exact same thing. Think outside the box. After thinking about the 3 different proposals, there was one skill that actually checked all the boxes in my mind. Shamanism has the potential to solve a problem in the game, offer unique interactions with other skills, form relationships with other skills, offer open-ended rewards, bring a new D&D into the game, and integrates well with the current world and content. Some of these points might feel a little bit vague or not make a lot of sense, but I hope after my explanation for my proposed changes to the skill, it makes more sense. So I can't count the amount of bad takes I've seen on social media calling Shamanism herblore, warding, or invention 2.0. The best part of this skill has nothing to do with augmenting gear, gathering resources, or producing them into something else. The highlights of this skill in my mind are in the training methods, the spirit realms, and the potential to impact the game economy. So with that in mind, my proposal for changes to the skill are as follows. Put a much larger focus onto the spirit realms. Make half of the ingredients tradable and the other half untradable. Choose the tradable resources carefully since they could act as an incredible item sink. Instead of augmenting gear, make consumable buffs. Make them costly but long-lasting or potentially permanent depending on the buff. So to start off, they should completely revamp how spirit realms function. I think spirit realms should appear while doing your everyday activities. Think of them as superior slayer monsters. They sometimes pop up, they offer you a sometimes slightly tougher challenge, and you're heavily rewarded from participating in it. Imagine you're killing hellhounds for your slayer task. A spirit realm portal appears and you can enter it to visit a slayer spot inside the realm. Inside there, things look exactly like they do in the game, but with a twisted spirit touch to it. You find spirit hellhounds, which offers a much more lucrative drop table, much of which goes back into the skill. And when you kill them, you gain shamanism experience and you also get some bonus slayer experience. This goes on either for a limited time or until the resources inside the realm has been depleted. The same logic goes for something like barbarian fishing. When you have the opportunity to enter the spirit realm, you can keep on fishing like normal, but instead of you having to drop the fish, it vanishes from your inventory, you get a little bit of shamanism experience for each catch, and it's just a nice little touch on your normal fishing experience. I would also suggest the addition of some type of totem or container. So performing any activity inside the spirit realm fills up this container, which should arguably be in a new equipment slot. And once you empty it or release it, it gives a chunk of experience and potentially some larger reward, for example, some spirit skilling resources. These totems could also vary in rarity depending on your level in shamanism. This way the skill becomes more of a supportive skill rather than a copy of herblore or invention, and it offers you a new dopamine kick the same way as superiors do every time you train Slayer. I just think there's huge potential here with these zones other than just collecting some shards, so this is probably what I would try to turn them into. Make them the highlight of the skill, acting as a D&D activity, and use the skill as an opportunity to break down tradable items. Use these broken down components in combination with untradable spirit items to create infused skilling resources, long-lasting consumable buffs, quality of life rewards, etc, etc. And also don't forget that the part of the reward also lies in how the skill is trained inside these spirit realms. Just the same way one part of Slayer is just being able to train combat at a faster rate when on task. So that's my pitch for improving on the already promising concept Jagex released for Shamanism. The name of the skill doesn't quite come naturally, but hopefully they'll review that too based on feedback. If you have any sort of ideas or criticism towards either my proposal or my opinions on the other skills, feel free to let me know, and that's about it. See ya!